I used to think I was just indecisive, but really, I think I was just scared. I was scared of making the wrong move. I was scared of letting people down or losing something that I had already poured just, so much into. So I'd stay in the job, the friendship, the routine, even when I knew it really wasn't right for me anymore. If you've ever felt like that you know deep down it's time to change something, but you just can't pull the trigger, then this episode is for you. And I'm going to show you how I finally stopped overthinking, I trusted myself, and I made some of the hardest but best decisions of my life. Welcome to Lounging with Laurie, the Sisterhood Collective podcast. If you've ever wondered what small steps can lead to big change, or how to break through challenges to create a fulfilling life, you have come to the right place. I'm Loz, and this podcast is all about real women sharing their stories, sharing their lessons, and the actions that have helped them grow and thrive. With a mix of my own experiences and inspiring conversations with women just like you, we're creating a space where you'll laugh, learn, and leave ready to take action. Let's dive in. This is Lounging with Laurie, the Sisterhood Collective podcast. All right, let's get into it. Today I'm sharing why decision making can feel really heavy, even when deep down you know something needs to change. I'll walk you through a few of the biggest decisions I've made because there have been some ones that I have sat on for way too long. Yeah. And the mindset shifts that have helped me finally move forward in this decision making. If you've been second guessing yourself, or you're stuck in your own head, or you're scared to make that call, you're not alone, that's for sure. I hear these same conversations and these same problems all the time. Let me tell you a little story. Very recently for me, I left a role that had been a very big part of my life for quite some many years. This particular role, it gave me consistent income. It was very flexible. I could work from anywhere in the world, which I absolutely love because, I like to travel. And it was very familiar. It was a space in which I feel like I was quite good in or good at. But the thing is, it just no longer served me. And the moment I let it go, I felt this rush of, let's just say, space. I love that word, space. Space to focus on my business, space to rest, I suppose, like just stop for a hot second, and space to find a new mentor and, be stimulated again. And most importantly, I really needed to grow. So I needed that new stimulation. And it was a huge decision, actually, but it was also one of the clearest that I've ever made. And honestly, my only regret, not that I like to use the word regret so much, but is the fact that I didn't do it sooner. This, latest decision for me is when I realized I have a pattern of holding on to things just that little bit too long. Thankfully for me, I realized that the big decisions, the large decisions I've made over the last few years, the time is getting shorter. I'm realizing sooner when I need to let go, but it sure has been a big lesson and it's taking its time. So why do we get stuck in these spaces? Because indecision is still a decision in a sense, right? When you stay in the gray zone, it completely drains you. You're probably not confused, of what to do next or anything like that. It's probably more the fact that you're afraid. That's certainly how I think I felt. Afraid to disappoint somebody else, to let them down. Also things like, afraid of wasting all this time and money and effort that and emotions that you've already invested. And then also afraid that if you do let that thing go, or afraid it won't work out. And not choosing is choosing, but it's choosing to stay stuck. It's choosing to give your power away. And I do remember sitting in that feeling of staying stuck. And I chose that. I definitely chose that. The first time I chose it for a good 3 years. Don't know why I did that, but it was fear of, it's like a little bit of a safety blanket, I suppose. So let's talk a little bit about the sunk cost theory, because the sunk cost theory is this idea that we keep holding on to the things that's simply because we've already invested in them. And I remember the first time I learned about sunk cost theory because I was sitting in my lounge room with one of my very good friends, Sam Jackson, who's doing her PhD in psychology at the moment. You've heard her on the podcast before, most likely, but my conversations with her are absolutely one of my favorites because she really challenges me to think differently from different perspectives, deeper, and she asks me the hardest questions. So I love it. Oh, of course, we have fun too, by the way. She's super fun. We've definitely traveled the world together. But she was the first person to bring this up to me, and she explained to me what it was. And I was like, oh, now it all makes sense. I'm like, that's me. That's what I'm doing. And so that's when I first heard about it. But I see it more and more now. It's so clear. We do these jobs and we have these relationships and businesses, and we even consider ourselves in this particular identity. But the truth is, you don't have to keep paying into something just because you've already done that, just because you've already identified with that. When I finally let go of, my first gym, even my coffee shop and some of the other ventures that I've been in, even though I'd poured time and money into those and definitely a lot of emotion into them, when I let them go, I felt lighter. I created space for what was next, for alignment, for energy to return. And I did notice that sometimes holding on to something, particularly my latest thing was probably the coffee shop, I always say it anchored me. It anchored me to stay in Queensland. And when I let that go, it gave me permission to not have to stay in Queensland anymore. And of course, as you know, I no longer live in Queensland. But so letting go doesn't mean you've failed. It just means that you've evolved. And it makes space for you to do that as well. But I have a little bit of a decision framework that I wanted to share with you. When I need to get some clarity, or if I'm feeling a little bit stuck in something, or I'm feeling flat or, stagnant, when you just feel like you're treading water, these are the few steps that I take to work through the problem. And the very first one is listening to what my gut is saying, ignoring the noise, blocking out the opinions because they're so easily influenced and there is a lot of noise out there. And I kind of ask myself, what do I already know? Because I feel like when you listen to your gut, it's telling you the answer. That's your intuition speaking. We don't always listen to it and we try to block it out, but that's the first thing. So, finding a little bit of space and quiet space, I suppose, and just asking myself, what do I already know about the current position that I'm in? How am I feeling about it? And then I ask myself, or I check in with myself, what do my values say? So if I know my values, I always say they are my compass for decision making. So does this decision that I'm about to make or trying to make, does it align with the lifestyle and the vision that I'm trying to build for myself? Because like I said, the coffee shop held me in Queensland. I didn't want to be in Queensland. I knew I needed more. And the same with the last venture. It was holding me in a space where I felt like I'd learned, or I've hit that ceiling of learning what I needed to and wanted to, but now I needed more. All right. And so my values wanted more growth. My values wanted to move locations and explore. And so then the third question I kind of ask myself, and I love this one, what is the cost of staying the same? Because generally we only ever think about the risk in changing, but there's also a cost to staying as well. So those three questions, they're my check-ins, and they help me move with, I guess, more intention and ensuring that I'm not heading off on a path that isn't necessarily in the right direction that I want to go right now. And that path changes and it's allowed to change, and that's okay. So something I've learned the hard way is that I feel like we wait for confidence to arrive before we act. But confidence shows up after the decision is made. When you take that leap or you make that call, finally, that's what starts to create you that momentum. So when I left my last venture, I was so confident in my decision. I knew it was the right thing I had to do. But I was so nervous about saying it out loud to them, to say that I'm leaving. But within a week, of course, I felt lighter, otherwise I wouldn't be telling you this story. But it was after that, it was within a month or 2 months or 3 months later, where I really noticed that I had created space for myself. I had clearer mornings, including time. I had more time to create, more energy to create, and that, energy that I could reroute towards building. And I had this deeper energy with my other businesses. I felt a sense of freedom, I think, and I still do to this day. I think of the freedom is of choice, the freedom now that I can choose what I do with my time. And it was all those feelings that's when I knew I'd made the right call. And that's when I really realized that we do need to get rid of things that aren't serving us anymore. And it's okay with businesses, with investments, with friendships. Sometimes you will invest something for a certain time frame. It gets you from point A to point B, but it's not necessarily the same investment to get you to point C or that next destination. So something you can do, and it's a reflection here. You can grab your journal and just sit with this for a minute and say, what am I afraid will happen if I choose what I actually want? And answer it honestly. And maybe let it marinate for a little bit too, because you don't have to solve it today. But just promise me you won't lie to yourself about what you really want. Be truthful, be honest with what you want. This is where the clarity starts. It's not by doing more, but it's by being really honest with yourself. It's okay to want what you want. It's okay to change your mind. You have permission. So whether it's a role that you've outgrown, maybe it's a friendship that's shifted, or perhaps it's a business idea that just doesn't light you up anymore, give yourself permission to move. You don't owe anyone a longer stay in something that no longer fits. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose differently. You're allowed to back yourself. And I really feel good about talking about this today. It's one of those themes that comes up all the time in conversations that I have, even like when I do my own reflections, the conversations that I have with clients, with friends, and even, when I'm listening in, maybe sitting at a cafe, or if I'm at a networking event, or even at the gym, people are talking, it's such a big theme that I feel like people hold on just a little bit too long. I think we're all carrying things that we've outgrown, and sometimes just saying it out loud makes it easier to let go. So there's my little pep talk for today. I'm going to wrap it up here, but I'd love to hear what this episode brought up for you. Come share your breakthrough decision, or if you've got this realization that you've just had, bring it into the lounge room. It's our free group. And if you're ready to go deeper, make faster progress, we have a membership, the Sisterhood Collective membership room. It's the perfect space to do that sort of work. And remember, small steps lead to big wins. So keep showing up, keep backing yourself, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.